My people, this is nauseating, unbelievable, and sad. So Sheikh Gumi came out and he accused middle belt groups of fabricating Christian genocide and also burying empty coffins, my people. Ha! Controversial Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi has alleged that some groups in Nigeria's middle belt have been burying empty coffins to forcefully portray mass killings of Christians and promote what he described as fake narrative of genocide. Gumi made the claim in a post on his verified Facebook page while reacting to criticisms that strained his ongoing stay in Turkey. This is in the midst of fear possible U.S. military intervention in Nigeria following Donald Trump's remarks about alleged persecution of Christians. He wrote, "A doctor wrote to me, do you know that some middle belt Christians groups are now staging fake mass killings? They are burying empty coffins and recording the process as if real victims were killed, just to push the narrative of Christian genocide. This is desperation at its peak, a disgrace, manipulating information just to provoke hatred and internal sympathy." The cleric, who has continued to grant interviews from Turkey, dismissed suggestions that he fled the country to avoid potential U.S. attacks, saying his trip has been scheduled before Trump's statement. In another post, he described the allegations of Christian genocide as a deliberate attempt to malign Islam and the enforcement of Sharia law in Nigeria. After the fog has cleared, the alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria is all about a well-drawn-out plan to attack the Sharia law and the Islamophobia, he wrote. Meanwhile, Gumi has also called on President Bola Tinubu to take diplomatic action against Trump for what he termed as direct affront to Nigeria's sovereignty. For Trump to threaten a sovereign country with military attack is a profound disrespect to our authority, but we can rise above it, Gumi said, urging the federal government to summon the U.S. ambassador and demand an official retraction. Honestly, hearing all these things Sheikh Gumi is saying is so annoying, very, very annoying. This man is desperately wicked. How can he say a thing like that? Oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Because despite the killings, even the families that have come out to testify by themselves, and Gumi is still saying a thing like this, just to push this nonsense narrative out there. What a man. Like, what a man. I can't imagine what the family that lost their loved ones, when they see this video, how they'll be feeling. This man is really, really heartless. Like, this particular statement from Sheikh Gumi has been trending since today, and Nigerians, they have been reacting. So this person said, Sheikh Gumi's claim is incitement against grieving communities in the Middle Belt. Such statements undermine national peace and fuel ethnic hatred. The federal government must immediately apprehend and investigate Gumi before his words spark unrest in Nigeria. And another person said, Sheikh Gumi's remarks are a dangerous provocation against mourning communities in the Middle Belt. His words threaten national unity and risk inflaming ethnic tensions. The federal government should urgently arrest and investigate Gumi to prevent this from escalating. And this person said, this man is a major problem in Nigeria. Tinubu is a weak commander-in-chief. He can't command anything. In a well-organized country, this Gumi would have been given a death sentence or life imprisonment. When Trump called Nigeria a disgraced country, this is the part of it. And another person said, I don't know why the Nigeria government doesn't want to invite Gumi for questioning, a well-known terrorist sympathizer. And this person said, if Nigeria was serious with fighting terrorism, Gumi would have been imprisoned. Saudi Arabia, a Muslim country, banned him from performing Hajj, but he is a spokesman in Nigeria with access to the media, and you say Nigeria is not a disgraced country? And another person said, Gumi is mindlessly evil to say that Christians being slaughtered by Fulani jihadists are burying empty coffins. This statement should get Gumi arrested in any society governed by rule of law, but it is left for victims in North Central, Northwest, South to drag Gumi to International Crime Court. Honestly, my people, I have never seen a thing like this before. For Gumi to deny thousands who were brutally murdered by this Fulani jihadists. Oh God, this is the heart of it, honestly. Let me allow you guys to watch this particular video about what is happening in Nigeria, especially the statement Donald Trump made about Nigeria and the way this Tinubu government is going about it. Please do well to subscribe if you haven't shared the video, give it a like, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for doing so.
A grim picture with the Christian Association of Nigeria, or CAN, reporting widespread attacks on churches and Christian communities. In contrast, government data is scarce, inconsistent, and often disputed. It highlights Nigeria's lack of reliable data, which undermines efforts to assess the scale of the problem and allows conflicting narratives to flourish. Critics argue that the government is more concerned with protecting its image than addressing the crisis. One of those critics is the international political analyst and former Nigerian diplomat who served in many countries in Africa, Europe, and the Americas, Ambassador Joe Keshi. And Ambassador Keshi joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Pleasure to be with you, Charles.
So what's your central challenge to the statements made by President Tinubu's spokesman, or one of his spokesmen, Daniel Bwala?
You know, let me start with a story. When I served in Ethiopia, I gave a lecture on Nigeria. And at the end of the lecture, the chairman, former central bank governor under Haile Selassie, said, in summarizing my presentation, said, anytime you meet a Nigerian population is increasing. And as I listened to, all sorts of data on what's going on in Nigeria today and the US trade, I'm reminded of that same story of how, this crisis with the Americans or the American trade has really exposed quite a number of things about the way we handle issues, the leadership behavior itself, in not understanding that in a crisis period like this, your first constituency, the people you should bother about, first are the people who elected you. As of today, the president has not spoken to us. His spokespersons just come in and say whatever they like. The other day, the Minister of Information, who, by the way, I have tremendous amount of respect for, Mohammed Idris. I've never met him. But every time he's on television to speak, I listen to him. He's a professional to the core. 2 or 3 days ago, he gave a brilliant press briefing on, on the situation in this country. And immediately he finished. I don't know how they gave the microphone to Dele Alake. What did Dele Alake say to destroy everything the minister has said? Dele Alake said, the people driving this narrative as of yesterday.
And Dele Alake, of course, is a minister.
Is the minister for, yes.
Yes.
The people, I'm quoting him, the people driving this narrative are those who lost the election in 2023. How on earth?
Yes, I have to say I was rather,
how on earth could you say a thing like that in this kind of situation? It was a very surprising
thing to have heard him say.
Bwala comes in here and then begin to spill all kinds of things. A Republican senator said this to me, a Republican senator said this to me. Listen, if Bwala is the face of Nigerian diplomacy today, then we are in worse crisis than we are. And then the next thing he said was, the crime rate in America is higher than Nigeria. My first question is, where is the data? I can't remember when last the Nigerian police ever presented the data on crime in this country. These are the kind of people you send to represent the president or to speak on behalf of the president, and they just create more problems for the president. These were the same people who started the crazy argument that, look, yes, Christians are being killed, but Muslims are also being killed. That's why some of us have to step in to say, listen, even saying that alone, you've destroyed your argument. So you're admitting inadvertently, yes, Christians are being killed, but Muslims are also being killed. And my question is, Muslims are being killed because the government, not necessarily this government, successive government, failed to protect them. But in making that statement, it shows you a lack of empathy for life in this country.
Nevertheless, let me narrow that the focus a bit, because if you condemn Mr. Bwala for minimizing Christian persecution, do you equally criticize Nigerian officials who ignore, well, that's what you're doing actually, who ignore Muslim suffering, for example, abductions by Boko Haram, or is it a case of selective outrage?
No, it's the government people who started that argument. And I said, and I keep saying, it's the worst thing to say in times like this. Muslims are human beings as well.
Of course.
They died. They died because those who took an oath to protect life in this country failed to protect them. Not enough protection. And by the way, this thing has been going on for years, 15 years plus. How do we explain that a crisis in Nigeria has lasted for 15 years?
Right, but Mr. Bwala, though,
we have no idea the sponsors. We've never arrested anybody. We've never prosecuted anybody.
Well, the government would argue that they've prosecuted quite a lot of people and sent a lot of people to jail. They said they've got 17,000 people in various camps across the country.
Fine. Again, present the people with that. This is why I said,
well, that's what they said they've done. They presented that argument.
In a crisis situation like this, the first port of call is the Nigerian people. This is why the president should honestly speak to us and lay everything on the ground.
No, absolutely.
Look, this is what
I would agree
mobilize.
With you. I couldn't agree with you more
mobilize,
on that score.
Say to the people, this is the situation. This is what we plan to do.
Absolutely.
This is what I want to do. And by the way, Charles, we always say this all the time. Foreign policy is an extension of domestic policy.
Indeed.
So if you are going to engage the United States, you need to put a few things at home.
Absolutely, and you're an expert in that.
Which I think that it has not been done yet.
Nobody can question that. But I mean, Mr. Bwala said that the attacks are slowing, that the evidence suggests that the frequency of attacks is coming down. Do you think frequency matters, or is any denial of severity, any attempt to deny the severity, where a lot of people are still dying, inherently harmful? In other words, how many incidents warrant a label of genocide, and why not apply it consistently? You see what I mean?
Our friend Ahmed, I think, presented the data yesterday, which I saw, I think, on your program yesterday, if I'm right. And the figures, I have no, I have...
You mean Adamu?
Kabir Adamu. Yeah, fantastic. That was very helpful. But what worried me as well was that some Christian groups and some Christian leaders have also been, they are on all networks, social media, presenting their own figures and their own facts. So Ahmed Adamu would have to probably take a look. Kabir would probably have to take a look at that in order for us to have concrete evidence as to what we are speaking to. So you cannot say only 100 were killed here, and you look at videos circulated by pastors from Benue or from Plateau, and they said we have buried 200. On the day you said only 100, people were killed. No, we must speak with data. We need to put all these together.
So in your assessment, this highlights Nigeria's lack of reliable data, which undermines efforts to assess the scale of the problem and allows conflicting narratives to flourish.
Basically. Absolutely. And this again goes to my point where when things like this happen, the first fellow who should speak and everybody else follows what he has said is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And you have to. Look, When I was saying that he spoke to Republican, senators, this senator said to me, this senator said to me, my argument is it's not a question of whether it's a Republican or a Democratic senator. Nobody has asked the question, how did Ted Cruz get involved in this matter now when this matter has been on the table since 2009? So there's a lot we need to do to understand the crisis itself, why it's coming up today, and focus on how do we deal with the problem. For me, the solution is end the killing.
Yeah. Well, that's what everybody would like to see.
Immobilizing national conscientiousness to do this.
But I mean, is it your contention that Mr. Bwala is deflecting blame away from the government he serves, which is essentially his job?
His job, yes.
But I don't recall him, though, necessarily denying facts of attacks. Maybe just the context or the way that he's framing it. Is that
absolutely. Even the way it is framed matters. Because, look, people are listening. Look, in a situation like this, let's understand one thing very clear, and I've always said this. Today, we do not live in a world of isolation. We live in a time in which as anything is happening in this country, it's all over the world.
Indeed.
You need to look from overseas, you need to see what Nigerians are sending about the fracas between Wike and the military, from all over the world. Now, some 10, 20 years ago, that would not happen. And as I've said repeatedly, we joined the service when a diplomat was described as someone sent to lie for the country. Today, no diplomat in his right senses would do that.
Well, let me ask you this, since you brought that up. I mean, you were a diplomat yourself. You represented Nigeria in Africa, Europe, America. I mean, you spoke internationally on behalf of the Nigerian government. What's the alternative to the way that Mr. Bwala has been speaking? I mean, should he amplify every tragedy? Is that how you would do it if you were a government spokesman, or is measured analysis needed to avoid inflaming tensions? How would you handle it?
No, absolutely. Look, I dealt with this issue in 2009. They can check the records. When I heard that a recommendation was going to be made to Mrs. Clinton and then to the president, I think it was Obama then. Fortunately, I was on my way to Washington, and I asked if they can arrange for me to meet the group. And I listened to the group. They made the same, between both of us, myself and the team discussing this. Look, I did not deny that Christians have not been attacked, but I also made the case that, listen, this is a complex issue involving ABCD, but this is what the government is doing about it. But their grounds all the time was that, their main anger was that, listen, they've been to this country a couple of times, and no official was prepared to speak to them or tell them exactly what they wanted to find out. And I undertook, and I said to them, if I arrange for you to see all the officials you want to meet, will you come back? They gave me their words that they would come back. They came back. And that was how that of 2009 was dealt with. The point I'm trying to make here is that, look, in a crisis like this, speak to the people with data. For those who are affected, don't begin to deny that it did not happen. And this is why when I said that we need to do a lot more internally, there are a number of groups the president would have reached out to say, look, for example, the Arewa Consultative Group, they've been relatively quiet on this issue. But can they undertake to say, for the sake of this country, for the unity of this country, can they reach out to the people in Benue Plateau and the Christian North and say, let's have a dialogue?
Yeah, well, they've spoken quite a lot, actually.
Yes,
they attended Arise's office in Lagos and all the rest.
No, it's not a question of attending Arise's office. It's a question of engaging the people.
Indeed.
Yes, to say, look, we understand what you're trying to say.
But you have been quite, you've been quite strident in saying, and a lot of people would agree with you, that there seems to have been a failure of leadership in this context. Do you believe that external criticism or even interference is legitimate if local leaders aren't living up to expectation?
Charles, if you do not want the devil to get into your affairs, lock your doors, lock your window. The devil won't come in. So if we...
Unless if he's a ghost. He can
except he's a ghost, exactly.
He can seep through. He wouldn't be bothered by your locked doors, would he?
Those who took the issue abroad took the issue abroad because nobody was listening to them in this country. They cried. Even the dead have not received justice.
Indeed.
And so when they realized...
That is why it's so painful.
Yeah. So when they realized that nobody was listening to them, nobody was even prepared to sympathize with them, they decided to find something else.
Right.
People who will listen to them. And look, the good thing about this, though, is the fact that at least generally Nigerians themselves have come to realize the fact that, look, there's a crisis in the north.
Right.
And that so many people are dying. Because before, people were nonchalant, people were too busy. And in any case, the usual Nigerian attitude, it's not happening in my zone, so I don't give it down.
Sod it,
yes.
basically.
But right now, when you look at the social media, when you look at conversation, and everywhere, and jokes, by the way, the comedians are having a big laugh, out of this. You find out that Nigerians are more conscious of
right, but
the
let
reality.
me ask you this, Ambassador Keshi, because, you are a diplomat, a seasoned, respected diplomat. If you were to frame the messaging on behalf of the Nigerian government going to the world, would you consider it to be reductive to frame this as a Christian versus Muslim issue when the main point here is systemic collapse that affects everyone? How would you frame that?
I'll probably choose the second option. Because you see, in framing it as Christian versus Muslim, you are inadvertently admitting that Christians are being killed. So you just have to step away from that. Because if you give that impression...
But that's what focused attention on this issue.
Yes, that's exactly...
That's what got the attention.
Yes, that's what got the attention.
The President of the United States.
So you just got to move away from that, not making that argument that, Muslims also are being killed. No. The best way to frame this is to make people understand the complexity. But you see, the problem again of getting people to understand the complexity is they also begin to doubt the capacity of the country to resolve its problems. How do you explain that this has been going on for 15 years? Yeah. And this is why my position is, forget all the excuses. Forget the Trump what do they call it, threat. Let's do something more dramatic between now and maybe early next year.
So how should that be done? Do you think Nigerians should be pushing their government harder to act? Are we failing to pressure Nigeria's government?
No, look.
Because how are we going to do it?
The president in putting in place new service chiefs, again gave them the marching order, which I thought was not strong enough. It should have been a deadline to say, look.
Yeah, but we've seen deadlines before.
No, I'm coming that. Look,
Buhari gave deadlines.
No, I've always said it. Buhari spent 8 years giving everybody last warning. Until he left. It was last warning. But the president should have been more specific. I want to believe that the president's order needs to be stronger than I had.
Right.
And to say to these people, listen, your continuation in this job in the next 6 months depend on ending this crisis.
Indeed.
And if the president does that and then speak to us, give us that assurance of other things he's putting in place.
Right.
To ensure that, the de-escalation, as this claim is going on, moves very fast. Of course, Nigerians will appreciate it. And then you can now go and engage the United States and say, look, these are the things we have done, and we are taking care of the problem.
Welcome to Shammer's News TV.